Good morning. I just recorded a short sort of tutorial showing you how I do it when I use the stranded colorwork chart from one sweater and use it for a different sweater pattern. Because I had to use two different patterns when I'm knitting this Fair Isle sweater for my son. So I have recorded, I figured out how to do overhead filming. I'm really proud of myself, and because I figured that one out, I might do this later as well if there's something else you want me to show you. I've never done tutorials. I'm not claiming to be any good at teaching people anything, but hopefully you understand what I was trying to show you, and if you have any questions, please post them in the comment section below, because then I can talk more about this in a podcast, or I can do a more elaborate explanation, if you will. But it's really easy when you know how to do it. Anybody can do this. So this is going to be a short episode of Bente's Bag of Holding, but I figured I would rather just post this on YouTube now so you could see how I did it. And the next episode of Bente's Bag of Holding will probably be a bit longer. But anyways, I hope you enjoy the tutorial, if I can call it that. It's more of an explanation. And I'll see you the next time, either on Bente's Bag of Holding or in my next podcast episode. I promised you I'd show you how I transfer a chart from one pattern to another pattern. The reason why I did this is because I wanted to knit a Fair Isle sweater for my son, and I couldn't get gauge on the original pattern. The pattern for the finch is this really beautiful Fair Isle pattern. Hopefully there's not too much reflection on the screen on my iPad. I could of course have printed this one out on paper, but I wanted to take a shortcut, as usual. So this is the pattern I decided to use for the sweater itself. I'm not going to do it as a cardigan. I'm not going to have the steek in front. So that's the pattern I'm using for the sweater itself. And so I'm using all the numbers from this pattern in the sweater for my son. And I have the chart from the finch. And what I do, I started with a sleeve. And this is the normal way of doing it for Norwegian sweaters anyway. You go to the chart. This is the chart. And you find out what's your center point. I have marked this. I use Knit Companion for this. You see that red dot? That's the center of the pattern. And that is what I wanted in the middle of the sleeve. So what I do is I check how many stitches there are around the sleeve, and I count from the center point out, so I know where to start. And that's how I figured out. You see, this is as I'm increasing, I just move along in the pattern. So that's what I did for the sleeve. And I always do a purl stitch at the end. And then I started with the sleeve just to make sure the sleeve openings were the right size. So when it came to the body of the sweater, I did the same thing. I calculated that from the center of the body of the sweater out until the side seams, I did not count the center stitch. I started counting from the stitch next to the middle stitch, and I needed 64 stitches to reach the side seam. So that's my center point, and I counted 64 stitches, and that blue line, this is one of the reasons why Knit Companion is so brilliant, that blue line is my starting point. And that won't change for the body of the sweater because there's no increasing and no decreasing. And this is also normal in Norwegian sweater patterns. You knit one side of the sweater, and then you start over again for the next part of the sweater. So it won't match at the sides, but that's normal in Norwegian Fair Isle patterns. It won't match. And again, I'm doing a purl stitch in the middle. So that's how I put a different... This is a basic sweater pattern. You can do this with any Fair Isle pattern and any sweater pattern. You just have to count your stitches so you know where to start with the pattern. And I'll also going to show you how I knit Fair Isle Norwegian style. It's only 2 colors on the needles now. And I always hold both strands of yarn over my finger. And as you can see, I separate them by holding them like this in my hand. So I pick them up with that finger in between, and then I do like this. That way I keep the tension even on both strands. And then I just knit how many stitches I need. This is, I'm going to have 5 of the gray and then 1 brown, and then 3 of the gray and 1 brown. And this is where I reach the center stitch, and that I'm going to purl. And then I keep going, starting from the blue line in my chart. That's where I start when I start doing it like this again. And if I have 3 colors, this is the only chart where I need 3 colors at any one time. And when I do that, I always have 2 colors here, and I throw the 3rd color like this. So that's a mix between continental and English style, I guess. I keep the 3rd color here, and I throw that, and I knit with 2. I never have 3 colors at the same time on my finger. So again, you just count how many stitches you have on your sweater. You find out what's your middle stitch and how many stitches there are between your center stitch and the side seam, and then you count that out on the pattern so you know where to start in the side of the sweater. And that's how I transfer a chart from one sweater onto a pattern of a different sweater.